like, you know, turning off your computer, buying locally produced, locally grown food is a really big one. We were just talking at the welcome to the SLC the other day that students were interested in setting up like a bus that would take you to the Saturday morning farmers markets from the residence halls, or things like that that really make it easy for you to that's a really sustainable action that's pretty easy to do, and you can all do it as a group. Ride your bicycle, all that kind of stuff. I think the main point is, no matter what, you know, you don't have to go out and buy all sorts of green things to be a green, sustainable person. The key is really to think about what you're buying, consume less stuff, and use the stuff that you have, waste less. I think that's a really good way to summarize what it means to live a more sustainable lifestyle. And I just wanted to highlight briefly some of the ways that you can get involved in campus sustainability in a bit more formal manner. The ANU Green Office has internships every semester. We bring about 7 students into the office to work for 7 days. It's a paid internship, so it's a really good opportunity for you to put into practice what you're learning and have something that looks really good on your CV. Green Steps is a training program offered in the 2nd semester of each year. It gives you second semester. And there's 2 intensive weekends of training, and then you have a placement in an industry or business department, government department. It kind of depends on your interests, but it's a really good way to get into an office and to apply what you've learned. It's sort of a green office, reducing energy and water consumption in a business environment. So that's a really good program. And you've heard about the IARU sustainability internships from Ed. He was at Yale not too long ago, actually. This year, we are very excited to be offering 2 internships again, one to Yale and one to Oxford, which is another one of our IARU partners. So I've just actually announced these internships, and I have a few flyers that I'll just leave by the door. So if you're interested in that program, you can have a look and go to the website and get a bit more information. But again, a good chance to go see what, you can go have an impact in another institution's sustainability office, and like Ed, bring that knowledge back here to ANU and help us to further that cause. And I think I'll leave it at that. I'll just leave up here the website for the Sustainability Learning Community. If you're interested in knowing more about how you can get involved in campus sustainability, that's a good place to look. And there's the email address. And what I might do now, as I said, I'll leave the flyers for the internships at the door. You can grab one when you go. And while we're having some questions, I'll pass around the mailing list. So if you want to hear about campus sustainability events, just sign up and you'll receive an email every other week or so about what's happening on campus. Thanks.
So to see, yeah, and I'll just change the rules a bit. When you ask your questions, maybe just introduce yourself and your degree. So Mary Smith Arts, if you're Mary Smith and you're doing a Bachelor of Arts. So is anyone who'd like to start the questions?
Well, if people are thinking of questions, can I just plug something else? I talked about some ways that together we can make a difference when I was talking, and one of these is coming up next week on Saturday, the 29th of March. It's Earth Hour, so between 8 and 9 p.m. Is it 8 and 9? 5 to 9. 5, yes, so 5 to 9 we're having an event down on Fellows Oval at ANU to sort of celebrate the fact it's Earth Hour. We're going to have a barbecue and a big earth in the shape of candles. But the idea behind it is that it's going to bring us together. But in that time, please, if you're going to come along, make sure that you've switched off all the lights, you've unplugged everything which is not necessary, including mobile phone chargers and laptop chargers, which still draw a current even when your mobile phone and laptop aren't plugged in. So things to think about. Something easy to do to make a difference, flip the switch. If we all did that, I think it could account. Standby power is accounts for something like 10% of Australia's total energy. Less than, that's an exaggeration. But that's a large proportion of Australia's total energy consumption. Another thing that we can do together to make a difference is all the tutors on Friday agreed that we are going to request that you print all your assignments double-sided this semester. Which again, as a class, is something we can do together, and it's potentially, or else print one single-sided on the scrap that you've already used the other side of. So together we can make a big difference on that and cut up input consumption on half in this class this semester. When you do print double-sided, please put page numbers on the pages so we can tell which order they're supposed to go in. Okay.
And if you don't know how to print double-sided, ask Ed, because that's actually a very relevant point. We spend a lot of time saying print double-sided, and sometimes we hear, I don't know how to set my computer to print double-sided, so ask Ed if you need to know.
That reminds me of a nice connection with yesterday's lecture with state of environment reporting. So there was a recent audit of one of the colleges, and you had to see how many different power devices was in one room. 27 was the record in terms of energy use. Rob's talked about cultural differences, and I think that's one thing hopefully will come out of the National University of Singapore collaboration. This is a quite different attitude, particularly about transport. So it's very unusual, not unheard of, I suspect, for a student to drive to campus at NUS. And that was certainly the case in the 70s when Alice and I were here. It would have been very, very unusual for a student to drive to campus. But these cultural things change quite often rapidly. So a question? Tom? So Tom, do you agree? Introduce yourself.
Interdisciplinary studies. This is sort of to everyone, but mainly Ed. When you were in America, did you notice amongst the students there was a real sort of change in feeling or perception of the issue of sustainability and climate change, or were you not really there for long enough? And to everyone else, can you guys see a change in student perspective on it?
Yeah, I could talk about that both at ANU and at Yale. In the 4 years now that I've been at ANU, there's been a huge change from students and a big push. Again, this grassroots push that I was talking about that was around in my first year but wasn't really around. There's people, Bruce Green for instance, in my first year there was about 10 of us. This year there's 25, B&G Green, 35 people turned up at the first meeting this year. People are really, this is a top of mind issue at the moment. In the States, it was interesting. People get really, especially at Yale, it's a mentality where if something becomes kind of personal to you, everyone is very, very much involved. It's not just about, very few people have jobs, so everyone's involved kind of in extracurricular activities and it's seen as a big part of your well-rounded education. So obviously there's a lot of groups related to environment and climate change on that. Whether it's translating to action always, I couldn't really tell you, but there is quite a high awareness of the issue. There's a big distaste for the current government's stance on climate change, and just about while I was there was an event called Focus the Nation, which is basically refocusing the election on environmental issues, and so that was, another good chance to kind of make it a top of mind issue for people. It's about making sustainability, I guess, at the top of your mind rather than the bottom of your mind. Oh, I really should do this compared to, this is just what I do. Does anyone else want to comment on that?
Do you want to comment as the token American? Well, I'll just say that I've been in Australia for 2 years and I actually haven't been home in that time, so I'm kind of curious to go back and see what's happening this summer, winter, whatever it's called. But I noticed sort of a difference between American and Australian students. When I came here, I thought that Australians were much more tuned into these sorts of issues and just in general, so I found that to be really encouraging. And I'll also just say that even in the past year, we've noticed, as Ed said, a huge increase in interest. So, like at Celebrate Sustainability Day, for example, we had people coming up to us all day saying, I'm really interested in this, I want to help, what can I do? And so, for all of us, we found that really encouraging. So I think that we're all moving in the right direction.
Question?
My name is Oleg, and I'm doing a My name is Oleg, and I'm doing a Bachelor of Science Forestry degree. And I'm just interested in some societies. You mentioned like the zero emission society. Isn't that like a bit like unrealistic?
Who'd like to take that?
could probably throw that in with the same realm of no waste by 2010. There's a question, if you're going to set a goal or a target, you might as well go for the skies. I mean, the zero emissions, obviously the intent is to have zero emissions. I think the devil's in the detail when you determine zero emissions in relation to energy consumption or purchase on the ANU, or all those activities that lead in and out of that energy consumption process. So I think as much as you could say, people probably just take a little bit of cynicism, say, well, what's the point aiming for that, because